Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited to introduce Alyson Schafer as our facilitator for this webinar today. Alyson is a family counselor, author, and internationally acclaimed parenting expert who empowers families by sharing her principles, rules, and tools for raising happy and healthy children. We are honored to have her provide all kinds of tips and tricks on potty training today. If at any time throughout the webinar you have any questions, feel free to use either the question and answer or the chat function at the bottom of your screen at any time, and we will ensure that we answer those questions. Over to you, Alyson.
Hey, how are ya? Thank you everybody so much for joining. It is my absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you to Kids and Company for making this possible. I know how hard it is for parents in their busy lives to get out to educational seminars. So the fact that this can be delivered at the workplace, stored so that you can watch it at your leisure, to me, this is like the epitome of how work and home and family life can be much more balanced. So I'm so happy to partner and participate. And potty training will drive you crazy if it doesn't go well. So it makes everybody happier when we have some sort of a construct. So I want to start by advancing my slides. Let me click here. So the first thing I wanted to say to you is let's just, oh, sorry, that's my little delay. I'll catch on to the clicker. So the first thing I want to say is that we need to start by remembering, regardless of where you're at the process. Some of you maybe have not even begun yet because you got like a 6-month-old or a 12-month-old, whatever. And some of you may be deep into this with a 5-year-old who's like totally constipated and holding, or a 7-year-old that's still wetting the bed. This conversation is for everybody. But I want to frame it around the idea that we are talking about potty training in that this is a natural and normal part of human development. And I know you've probably heard this 100 times, but people always wittily say, well, they'll be potty trained by college, which is really true, except for that doesn't feel really great when you're struggling with it in the moment. But if I can just get you to entertain the idea that just like the caterpillar wants to go through all the different stages and turn into the monarch butterfly, that if we think that part of growing and developing and learning to manage our bodies and wanting to fit into the greater society, there actually is natural motivation there for our kids. So put it in the same category as kids learning to walk. I bet you none of you have signed up for a webinar on how to teach your kids to walk. I'll bet you none of you have signed up for a webinar on how to teach your children to talk. And what I mean by that is we somehow have an inherent belief that our kids will do this naturally. And so I just want us to get into the same framework that says our kids will do this naturally. What ends up hooking us is that we end up feeling like this is maybe one of the first times where our job as a parent, that we're supposed to do something, and God knows we want to be good parents, and God knows we want to do it right, that we need to do something. And so we see things as being mistakes or failures, or we're not doing it well, or we're confused by the information we're reading, because we feel like we're an active participant in whether this goes successfully or not. So if we compare that to, say, reading, kids naturally love to have storybooks read to them. And yet when our kids go to kindergarten and we say, you need to bring a book home from kindergarten because we need to read together every day, suddenly something that was fun, reading stories at bedtime, becomes something the kids refuse to do, because now it's moved from something that was joyful and natural and engaging and playful to something that became work, that was being judged, that was being told to do. And I don't want us to turn potty training into that mentality that this is work, and now we're getting into the interpersonal relationship with my parent, and I'm being controlled and made to do, and I'm failing, and I'm being measured and watched. Let's go back to that peaceful place that says, I have every faith in you, that just like you learn to walk and just like you learn to talk, that you are growing up and you will become like all the other people around you, which is what kids are dying to do, to join in and mimic all the modeling around them, and each kid will get there at their own sort of time. So when do they get there? When is that time? So I want to just clarify what happens when people start talking about how old did your kid, were they when they potty trained? This milestone thing is killing parents. That's the measuring thing that makes us feel like we're ahead or behind or whatever. What you hear is, I think, largely misrepresented. So first of all, what I would say is when I'm talking about a potty trained child, I mean a kid who can say, oh, pardon me, I have to go to the washroom. Excuse me. And they exit from playing, open up the bathroom door so they can use a doorknob, pull their own pants down, go to the washroom, wipe, flush, wash their hands, come back out and continue playing without any adult involvement. That's potty trained. People who tell you that their kids were potty trained at 16 months and whatever, there is a thing where they can train parents to recognize your kid's facial reactions, and then you can chase them with the potty and stick their bum under it and catch a pee. I do not think catching a pee is the same thing as potty training. So let's not get this confused. So if we look then at the average age of training, girls seem to train a little bit earlier than boys. It's like they're somewhere in about 2.5 to 3. We're coming in average. Now, again, I got to challenge you on average. Average simply means that if we look at a common distribution, you take all the population, you say, what age did your kid potty train? And you survey, 100,000 people. You're going to get a few people that actually did accomplish it at 18 months. And then you're going to get a few people whose kids, went as late as 5. But when we say the average, it means like 50% of kids are training somewhere between 2.5 and 3. 50%. That doesn't mean that still means there's 50% outside of that, a quarter at each end outside of that. So you don't have to feel like you were delayed. I tell most parents, most kids train somewhere towards the end of that 3rd year of life. So that's a very different story from kids who think, oh, well, you should start at 18 months and they should be done by 2. What we know from research is the sooner you start, the longer you finish. So when people say they potty trained in a weekend, great. In fact, I will tell you, I did potty train in a weekend. But here's why. Because my daughter was of the age, I think she was about 3. She had taken no interest in potty training at all, but she was already 3 years old. So she had a bunch of other skills. We'll talk about that. And we went to the cottage, and my daughter has really sensitive skin. She has terrible eczema. And we ran out of diapers, and I had to go buy a brand that created a rash on her, such that she didn't want to wear her diaper. She didn't want the rash. But she had enough social compunction and enough skill that she was then intrinsically motivated to say, well, I don't want to pee on the floor. I better go use the toilet. And in that one running out of diapers, she was trained. But she'd already seen the modeling. She'd already had this, she had everything else ready, but the moment finally happened. So those people that say that they trained in 1 weekend, it's because of that. That would not happen at 18 months. So chances are if you start at 18 months, it's going to take you 12 months to potty train your child. And do you really want to be in that struggle, that thinking, that active phase for that amount of time? I don't think so. So let's just get calm about where this sweet spot of development really is, and we'll talk about some indicators. And also for you to know that if you go to the doctor and say, I think my kid's behind, I don't think they're potty training, they're not even going to take you seriously as it being potentially a biological problem until your kids are getting closer to 7. There are still people that are still considered developmentally normal, just way out on the wispy end at 7. So I think we'll just all take a breath. We got this thing. We got time on our side. You're not being neglectful of parenting activities if your child is just a little different in their development interest. It is a biopsychosocial task. The biology part has to do with the maturation of the nerve tracts, the ability for the sphincters to contract and hold. And that tends to be largely genetic. So one question is, when did you train? Ask your parents. When did you night train? A lot of what happens with night training is that to stay dry at night, you have to release a certain hormone that reduces the amount of urine produced in the kidneys at night. And that hormone can be absent in kids up until about the age of 7. if you're a late night trainer. So there's a biological part, but there's also the psychological part. Am I actually interested in this? Do I care enough? If I'm more interested in playing with my Thomas the Tank than to step aside and go busy myself with these tasks, that's like asking a teenager to unload the dishwasher rather than play Fortnite. Like they've got priorities. So there's a psychological interest piece that has to be going on there, and whether or not they start to get embroiled with fighting with you, we'll talk about that. And then the social piece, which is, again, we're social creatures. Where's the environment? Some kids are very happy to go to the bathroom at preschool, but not at home. Or they'll be fine to go at home, but they don't want to go in a public washroom. So there's a social environment in which this behavior happens. So all of these things are happening at the same time, and we've got to work through it. So yeah, it is a more complex thing than we might have thought. So we're going to wait a little bit longer than you probably thought up until now. And then we're going to look for signs of readiness. So let me give you a list of readiness signs.
Alyson, we've got a question. Sorry, before we go on to the next point here. We've got a question, and it says, hi, at what point does bedwetting signal a health issue? If your almost 7-year-old is perfect during the day and at school and just wets the bed at night, what can a parent do? And then there's sort of a follow-up question, what about those alarm blankets? Are those good to use?
Yeah, so absolutely go to the doctor and do any rule outs, because you also want to make sure that there isn't like a urinary tract infection or other, you just always do a medical rule out, because that's just so easy and fast. And then no doubt the doctor is going to ask you, when were you dry at night? So there's that piece. Then the next thing that they're going to go down to is whether or not there's any psychological issues. And what I mean by that is it's not uncommon for kids to wet the bed when they're under high stress. Did your nanny just leave? Did you just switch schools? Did you just move? Has there been a death in the family? Has there been a new baby? Is there anything else new going on in that child's life? Then if it just turns out that these kids are super duper deep sleepers, such that they're not waking up, and here's the way to think about it. When you think about kids falling out of bed, when kids are little, we put them in a crib so they don't fall out the edge, right? Then we do the little day crib, and then you take the side down. And kids learn not to fall out of bed because even though they're sleeping, their subconscious mind is taking in data from their limbs, and they know if they roll too far and their arms sticking out, proprioception sends a message up to the brain saying, ding, 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 you're on the edge of the bed, roll the other way. They never wake up, but the body looks after itself. So we also need to be able to have enough alertness and signaling that they say, ding, 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 your bladder's full. You better wake up out of this deep sleep and get yourself to the bathroom. And either the signaling's not coming up or the brain is so deeply asleep that communication at a preconscious level isn't happening. So I would start by saying, dry out that bladder. No liquids after 6 o'clock so that they have a real chance of not having bladder to move through the night. I would not wake them up to pee before you go to bed. I would not wake them up in the middle of the night to go. That's not helping them learn. What I would say is that, if those little indicator things, you can try it. It's a way of arousing the child. So if there's wetness, it kind of wakes them up. If your kid's into that, that's great. And if it's a biological piece and it's an arousal thing, that might work. But a lot of kids also learn I don't want to wet the bed at night, or again, it's preconscious, not manipulative. But some kids learn, if I wet the bed, you have to come look after me in the night. And kind of like calling out for a nightmare or calling out for, a glass of water. They're like, why hold my bladder? Because now I'm going to get a little visit with my mom. She's going to look after my sheets. We get a little middle of the night alone time away from my siblings. So in that case, I would say, put a sleeping bag in the corner of the room and just say, hey, if you wet your bed, we'll look after the sheets in the morning. Jump in the sleeping bag, get a good night's sleep. You don't need to deserve me, or you don't need to pull me into service there, so that they don't get a social benefit for it. Or you can make the bed with like 3 or 4 layers of sheets with a plastic sheet, those little rubber, not the crinkly kind that are loud, but a little rubber sheet in between. So if they wet one, just peel it off, sleep on the next layer. But you don't want them getting you up in the night to deal with the sheets is the thing. So that's where I would go with the night wetting and see where you go from there. It's often just it's coming with time, and just don't get angry, don't get mad. Just we'll look after it. I'll show you how you can clear up your bed independently. So if you look at signs of readiness now, when am I ready to get cracking at this? First thing is I want to know that this child can actually walk and sit on the toilet on their own. Again, this is separating it from the people who catch peas. This is a task of independence. So they got to be able to walk and get on a toilet. Can they pull their pants up and down independently? That sounds like a simple thing, but can I tell you, as soon as you start deciding you're going to potty train, you got to get kids out of those oshkosh bagosh things. They can't do buckles and zippers. That's like a highly complex thing. They need little stretchy like track pants. And getting a track pant over a diaper or a pull-up, they got to learn how to pull that elastic out and get it over their bum, because they'll like pull it up, but you'll have like their tummy up with their bum hanging out the back. So they got to learn how to pull that up and down on their own. You want to know that they can stay dry for 2 hours, about 2 hours, because again, what we're seeing then is that there's sphincter control. They're feeling the sense of urine and pressure in the bladder, and they're making a conscious decision to clench those sphincters. If they can wake up dry from a nap, this is also saying that they've got holding capacity that's happening at that pre-conscious level. So good, the nerve tracts are maturing, the sphincters are starting to talk to those nerve tracts. Very good signs. But then the next one again goes to interest. Do they actually care? And I know it'll drive you crazy because sometimes they care and sometimes they don't. Anything new to a kid is exciting. Let me do it. I do it. Let me try. And then the minute they kind of have it kind of mastered, they're like, I don't care anymore. I figured it out. So it's not linear. You might have kids that are really interested in potty training for a week and then they couldn't care about it unless for 6 months. And you're going to be like, but I know they can do it. Doesn't matter. If they don't care, they don't care. You can't care more than them. This is going to be on them to decide that they are interested in doing this because they've got to be self-motivated to get there. So wait until they take a bit of an interest. And a lot of times it's that initial curiosity. What are you doing? So we want to, I'll get into steps in a minute. And then anything that says that they've got some feedback of body awareness that they are wet and soiled. Like they might say, oh, it is, they might be pulling at their diaper, like doesn't feel comfortable, or they walk kind of funny because they've got a stool in their diaper, or they might be holding and doing that little pee-pee dance, that little wiggly dance. And like, oh, look at you, you know that your body's got to go to the bathroom. You want something that says they are attending to that part of them. Because, a newborn is like, I don't care. Pee, poo, whatever, like that. It's just not even registering. So we want it to register. So then we're like, okay, now we've got somebody who's actually ready for us to take our first active step. Okay. So how do we begin? I would say buy a little potty chair that you can keep in the playroom, not in the bathroom, just in the playroom, because you can see this little child is very small. So it doesn't mean that you can start potty training at 18 months if you consider 18 months to be, are they watching me go to the bathroom? Are we talking about people go to the bathroom? Or are we starting to play by putting our little stuffed animals on the toilet? Anything like that it's just sort of part of life. And, they might sit on it fully dressed. My kids sat on their potty fully dressed for a long time. Sometimes they put their Barbies on it or their dolls or whatever. But it's just sort of around, and I let them watch me go to the washroom so that they know, oh, well, that's kind of what adults do. Just like they talk on their cell phones and they drive cars and do dishes and all the other 100 things. We walk, we talk, we go to the bathroom, and this is how we do it. We just model it. We just mention it and make it available. Now, I would say you are going to find that different kids have different preferences when you actually start going on the toilet, and you've got to get the equipment that is going to be suitable to your child. So this little potty chair, that's great. You can see their legs are planted on the floor. That's really important actually in the beginning, because when your feet are on the floor, you can engage your pelvic muscles. So dangling feet off an adult toilet is harder to move your bowels and harder to relax your muscles to pass urine and feces. So if you are going to just have them sit on the adult toilet seat, at least put a little footstool under them so that their feet are on the ground. And then you can decide whether you want like a little insert. And some are little portable inserts and some are a little bit more stable. Some kids don't like the shifting. They don't like the feel of that shifting. That feels like the earth is moving. They don't feel secure. So some of them would prefer to actually perch with their hands on that big seat because it's more solid. So, go to town, take your kids to go shopping with you and see what they'd like to pick out. But you might take 1 or 2 or 3 goes around what's going to be interesting for your kids. So just get to know them, find the equipment that they're most interested in, and have it available. Again, does it mean they're going to use it all the time, use it appropriately? Not yet. We're just starting. It's just around. We're just talking about it. Yeah, that's the toilet. That's what we do. We go to the bathroom. And again, so then that's sort of the modeling, and then most importantly, just keeping it fun. You know, it's if we lose our attitude of excitement, it's very much like Tom Sawyer whitewashing the fence. We don't want to make it feel like, come on, do what I'm saying. We want it to be like, oh no, you know, absolutely, you know, oh, you want to join in? Well, okay. they got to be yearning and pining for it. So it's got to look like it's fun. Drop the urgency. Just keep that attitude of trust and faith and fun, and they'll do it at their own pace, even if it's killing you. Fake it till you make it, as they say. So I'm going to just go back for a second. So if we keep it light and we keep it fun, and then now you've suddenly got somebody who actually is starting to show a little bit of body wiggling or whatever, then you can say, hey, do you want to try to make a pee on the potty? And of course, they're probably not going to make it in the beginning. And now I would, even though I have the potty in the playroom, I might now have the potty also in the bathroom, because the time between when they start to recognize that they might need to go to when they can actually make it to the toilet is super, super short. But you want to be really excited that they're even, hey, you really know your body. Well, we didn't make it this time, but you're learning how to run your body. In fact, mostly what they're going to say to you is, I peed. And then they're going to say, I'm peeing. And then they're going to say, I have to go pee. So at each one of those awareness levels, you can just keep saying, you know your body. You're learning to run your body. You really know, you're really in charge of you. I really want them to get a sense that this is they're the stakeholder, they're managing, that it's not my job. This is them coming into their own. I'm just being an assistant. They're the pilot. I'm the co-pilot. If we get over-invested in making them do, you will get into a power struggle, and then they will defy you by refusing. So I don't want to set up that dynamic at all. So say, well, do you want to make a try? And sometimes when we're moving around a lot, the pee and the poo can't come because we're too busy moving, which is why kids who just first learn to walk that are really, really busy on their legs, sitting on the potty is not interesting to kids that are on the move. So you might just say, well, look, why don't we just have a sit for a minute? And then, you know, maybe you want to have like a little basket of books that are like, these are our potty books. And maybe they're even books about the potty. We pull out these books just when we're sitting down with our pants down, and maybe a pee will come. I don't know. And if a pee doesn't come, that's okay. We sat for a minute. We gave it a try again later. So it's just available to them, and we can just give them that opportunity. But if they say, no, I'm not sitting down. Okay, no trouble. That's fine. I'm sure when you're interested, you will. Stay uninvested in their choices. I'm sure when you're interested, you will. So we keep giving them the opportunity to try. And of course, when they actually do make a pee, they're so excited. And that excitement that they have done something like other people do, like their parents do, we don't need to give them a sticker chart. We don't need to give them a candy bar. We don't need to say, when you go to the bathroom, I'll buy you a special book. No cake pops at Starbucks. The gratification comes from that recognition of a smile and a high five, and look at you. You are really learning to run your body. And that's it. That is reward enough, is the personal satisfaction. If you start to say, if you make a pee in the potty, I will, give you $1, like the tooth fairy. What you're going to end up doing is you're going to get a smart little kid who says, well, if I hold back the stream and cut it off, then I can get $2. So do you not need like a little smart economist ripping you off of money? I don't get paid to go to the bathroom, and I still go to the bathroom, right? It's the same with kids. There are intrinsic benefits that will eventually catch up with your kids. So I'm fine with the high fives, but do not reward them. Do not tell them that they can or cannot have something if they go to the washroom in the potty. It's a natural biological self-satisfying function, and they will get there eventually. Now, I would say for boys, even though grown-up boys pee standing up, I would still start with sitting down and pushing their penis between their legs so that you get the stream going down. I would say standing up is a little bit more of an advanced skill. And so this is part of the scaffolding skills. So I would start them sitting down. But when they do have a chance to stand up, to the point of fun but not reward, you can throw some Cheerios in the toilet and let them have target practice. You can let them pee with dad and have little sword fighting whatevers. Like it's fine to be fun, but that's different than rewarding. So other skills go all into those micro things. Wiping is very hard, but we need to show them how to wipe properly. So in the beginning, kind of like brushing teeth, they don't have the motor skills for that, but that doesn't mean you do it for them completely. So I have a friend who's a kindergarten teacher, and she said, Alyson, I have been teaching. She's actually retiring this year. She goes, I have been teaching since I was 26 years old. What has happened in the last 2 years, 3 years? Nobody teaches their kids to wipe anymore. She goes, I've got 20 whatever kindergarten students, and they all know they're potty trained, but none of them know how to wipe. It's not my job. And you do not want to teach or wiping your kid if you can help it, right? So wiping is part of the skill set. And dry paper towel or dry toilet paper is a little bit harder. But same thing, you got a kid who yanks on the toilet paper roll, you got 4,000 sheets on the floor. You can crimp the toilet paper so that it doesn't spin so fast. You can teach them to count 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever you need them to pull off. But I would say you go first, and I'll be the checker. Just sort of like when kids brush teeth, they can't really brush their teeth on their own effectively till they're 7, but you still want to teach them because they can't get to good until they go through practice. So you let them have a chance wiping. Use a wet wipe, I think, is a little bit easier for kids as they're developing that skill. More comes off, but you get them to wipe. So I used to say to you go first and then I'll be the checker. And they would literally pike over and spread their bum cheeks, and I'm the poo checker. You did a great job. You want to keep giving them positive feedback for what they're doing. So teach them the skill of wiping, and teach them again that skill of getting off the potty and pulling up their pants. And again, boys, if you've got boys with the foreskin, boys need to know, even without, they need to know how to do that shake, get that last bit of urine off so they're not leaving it in their pants. These are micro skills, but they got to be taught. So let them practice at those things. And then how to wash our hands at the sink, which also means learning, don't turn on full hot water. You're going to scald your hands. Turn on the tap a little bit, put your hands under. How hot is it? Do we need to put on some cold? Touch, check. Washing hands is a whole skill unto itself. So you could start, if you have a kid who's not interested in using the potty, it doesn't mean that you can't be practicing hand washing, right? If you've got a kid who's not interested and they're still going in their pull-up, you could still say, why don't you give a chance? Why don't you give a go at giving a wipe? So think of it as these micro skills that are going to get bigger and better over time. And sometimes the motivation piece is kind of the last to kind of kick in, which is why, I taught at a nursery school, and I actually opened a couple of nursery schools. It's amazing how many kids potty train once they're in the classroom setting. Once they see everybody lining up to use the toilet, they're like little lemmings. They want to do what all their friends are doing. So often, if you've been frustrated because you wanted to get them trained for school will be the thing that ends up training them in the end. But until then, I would say keep them in their diaper, or keep them in, I think, a pull-up. If they're really making a real try at going, I want to see that if they're running to the bathroom and they just didn't make it, then they just had an accident. But that's very different than like not trying at all and you're just cleaning clothes all day. That's not fair. I want to tie together the idea, and we'll get on to accidents here now. I want them to get the idea that that freedoms and responsibilities go hand in hand. If you want to ride your bike, you need to wear a helmet. That just makes sense. If you want to eat sugar, you got to show me you brush your teeth. If you want to be in underwear, which is non-absorbent, you need to show me that you can get yourself to the toilet on time. So wearing underwear is a privilege of being trained. So having said that, like I said, mistakes are opportunities to learn, and I don't want to ever shame a kid for having an accident. But if they're regularly having accidents because they don't care or they're not making any personal effort to get there, you're back to diapers, or whichever one you think is easier to clean. I don't want them to burden you. My kids stayed in pull-ups because even though they would go pee on the toilet, they wouldn't go poo. That's not uncommon. That even though they have bowel control before bladder control, they're less likely to want to actually give up a poo to a toilet than they will urine. They have a different relationship with poo for some reason. So if you've got a kid who is absolutely peeing in the toilet, but they want to pull up on just to poo, I say go for it. I know it's more expensive, but the point is, if you don't want to get into a fight about this, you want to make it as much of a non-issue as possible. So I promise you, for the money that you might spend on those pull-ups that they're in for like 2 minutes, because they put it on, walk behind the chair where they hide and push against the wall, poo, and you take it off in 10 seconds. Even though that seems like a waste of money, if you get a kid who ends up, you fight with them to go in the potty, they start holding causes constipation, The constipation starts causing solid stools that create fissures and cracks, maybe hemorrhoids, so that it hurts when they go to the bathroom. Now they've associated bowel movements with pain. So now they're holding even more, or they're holding to defy you because they feel you're making them go. Then we can get megacolon, and now we're going to get into Restoralax, and oh, you don't want to go down this road, people. So I promise you, for the small expense of a pull-up, you are much better to just chalk it up to buying another whatever 100 pull-ups and not getting in a bad place in the first place. But you will have accidents. So too many accidents, you go back to pull-ups and you explain that to them, or back to diapers and you explain that. But most of we want to say is, hey, you know what? You're learning to run your body and it looks like you didn't leave enough time. Maybe you were busy. Maybe you were distracted. But you know what? We need to get yourself cleaned up. Then if you've got a child who's already in underwear, they're ready for the next level of skills. And that next level of skills is, how do you clean up after an accident? So here's how we do it. We go to the bathroom and we get a pair of dry clothes and we strip these off and we use a washcloth to get all the urine. And can I tell you, urine is actually not, fecal matter is a problem. It really contains bacteria. Urine doesn't. So a little urine, a little wipe up from urine is not a health problem at all. So showing them how to wipe up with a washcloth or a wet wipe, whatever you have, and then to put those clothes, in a bag or a laundry hamper, wherever you want those wet clothes to go. But you're training the child for them to be able to do this on their own. And again, the idea is you will be more motivated to listen to your body and go to the bathroom rather than the amount of time it takes to change wet clothes. Do you know how long it takes to pull a wet sock off a toddler? A long time. So if it's like, well, I could be playing with Thomas the Tank, but now I'm sitting here in the bathroom trying to pull a wet sock off. Well, it's very fast if mom pulls it off. But if you go, you do it, you got it, give it a tug. They're going to start realizing this is the way longer route. This is not, so teach them how to be a little independent as much as their skill level can be, to take ownership of that accident with no shame. Just, we make an accident, we clean it up. Spill milk, you grab a cloth, you wipe it up. It's the same thing. No shame behind it, but get that cleanup happening, and it will probably be slow and long and boring and tedious, and they'll start realizing there's some benefit to getting there in the first place. Now, in terms of having bowel movement accidents, sometimes it's because kids are holding. It might be because they don't like to go to the bathroom somewhere. It's not uncommon for kids to be fearful of public washrooms. Sometimes it's because they want more privacy than they can get with the little stalls at school. Sometimes it's because those flushers, at home, it's like a little toilet sound. But, you go into these industrial bathrooms and sometimes they have those auto flushes. It's like, didn't know that was coming. What you can do in public washrooms is you can just carry around like a little sticky note or whatever, and just cover that little camera that sees you getting up and down. That'll help. But otherwise they have to prepare for it. It's like, cover your ears, use your foot to push down the plunger, but they got to know it's kind of coming. It's loud, it's surprising, it's shocking. A lot of kids don't want to go in public, which means they're now holding. So if they've been holding too long, it might be that the minute they walk in the door, they can't make it to the bathroom and they poop their pants. So that's common. So we got to look at what the reason is. But there's also kids who poop their pants. Literally, they're pooping at you. And this is, again, coming back to the psychological. I know a lot of kids who feel like they don't have a lot of control in their lives. Their parents are more controlling in their life, giving them a lot of compliance requests. Hang up your coat, give me your bag, eat your Smarties, or eat your carrots, leave your sister alone. Whatever it might be. We give kids a lot of orders. And so kids can often decide that one of the things that they can do is to get back at you by saying, there's a lot of things you can make me do, but you can't make me do this. So we often get kids that will retaliate with either an food refusal, like picky eating, sleep refusal, or waking up a lot in the night, or we'll get these little toileting things where either they'll full out soil their pants, or they'll just leave little skids, or sometimes they'll just poo in really awful places. Kids will poop in the Tupperware drawer or something. That is directed at you. That is like, I'm pooping on you. That is a stick it in your face. That's a relationship issue. So usually there's some control involved there. So just pay attention. Am I a controlling parent? Is this a little bit of my kid's kind of revenge tit for tatting with me? Not really a toileting issue, just a convenient thing to upset me. That's very common as well. How are we doing on questions?
We do have two here.
Okay.
The first one, my almost 5-year-old daughter is potty trained but wears a pull-up at bedtime. It's been dry mostly, but lately it's been very heavy in the morning. So what is some advice for that kind of nighttime potty training issue?
So if she still has the full, it's a full wet diaper in the morning, she's, yeah, which makes sense. Like there's still a lot of volume, urine volume. So I would say hold back a little bit on the liquids at night. I would say don't wake them up, never wake them up to pee. That's, but when I would I would say, give it a try, like before we get in the car. Want to make a try? Want to make a try? Trying at a pee-pee. Sometimes we don't feel like we have to pee until we actually sit down, So I would make sitting on the toilet even as just like a try as part of the bedtime brushing your teeth routine, so that she's going to bed with an empty bladder. But she may well be one of those kids where that, I think it's vasopressin, that hormone may not have kicked in yet. There's just still so much volume of that liquid. So I would just keep her in the diaper. Yeah. Yeah. And the other one?
Yep, perfect. Okay, the next one is, what would you recommend if you are potty training and have been using stickers and candy? Should we stop using that method or continue using it? Because we started training this way and have had success so far.
Yeah. And so what I would say is you can just switch it over, keep the stickers and keep the rewards and everything, but you're not going to dole them out. You're going to hand them over to your child and say, hey, here's our little sticker bin. When you are excited because you've done something, you put a sticker on there and you celebrate yourself. And so all we're doing is we're saying you didn't earn it from me. It removes you from being in a place of judgment where you're saying, when you please me, I will give you something. Now you're saying when you please yourself, you celebrate you. And it sounds like a small difference, but it's a big difference in terms of the optics from the kid. So yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with self-congratulations, but just let them be the one that puts the sticker on the chart and pat themselves on the back, and you can join in their celebration, but this is really between them and their body. So I kind of keep it out of there as having earned it from you, if that makes sense. And of course, for other people, you could also just say, like, you know what? We don't need this silly chart up here anymore. You're already doing such a great job, and take it down. And for those people that haven't started, like I said, just you really, I hope I've convinced you that it's not required, and it can lead to feeling coerced, and that coercion feeling is the thing that can come back and backfire on you. Yeah, which is what we're going to talk about here next, which is either resistance or regression. Now, it's interesting, the word regression. That's an old Freudian term, can I tell you? And so Sigmund Freud thought that kids regress through these stages, and you had like the anal, the oral, the sexual, the whatever. And I'm trained in Adlerian psychology, and Adler said, no, that doesn't make any sense to me. It's not when kids regress, meaning they were trained and then they go back to wetting. Adler says, if we look around and see, it's usually because there's a goal, the child's trying to accomplish something. So often what happens is say a new baby has come home, and the baby is getting changed by mommy, and the baby's getting a lot of attention for being incapable and inadequate and needing help. And so the kid says, well, being capable doesn't get a lot of attention in this family. Being incapable does. I'm going to go back to the way it was before, where I couldn't toilet myself. So it's imitation more than regression. So what I would say is keep your focus on being capable. So even though they can go to the bathroom on their own, you still want to say, look at you managing you. I'm so glad I don't have to look after that anymore, and give them more things to be capable around, so that they see in this family, competence has a high value and gets a lot of personal engagement. So that's the shift there. But you know what? Same thing. Underwear requires being dry. If you are back to soiling your pants, that's okay. That's a choice you can make for yourself. But it means that we need to go back to diapers, because we need to be hygienic, and it's easier to clean. And so you might go back for, who knows, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, try it again in a month, whatever it might be, and say, well, we'll try again in a little bit. And that's totally fine. And again, sometimes it's just their interest. Like, it was fun to learn, but it's not fun to do. And then in terms of resistance, like I said, if you've got a kid who won't sit on the potty, don't force them. It is the feeling of being made to do that becomes the problem with kids in potty training. I don't want defiance, because it's not that they don't want to train, it's that they don't want to follow orders. They don't want to feel like a puppet, that you are the puppet master, that they are the puppet, that they are an underling, that they are somehow subservient to your control. That's the part. That's the psychodynamic part that gets in the way. So you've got to be willing to let it all go. And and I mean for a long time. It's just like, don't talk about it. Don't mention it. We're not going to talk about potty training. We're not going to say how you're doing, when you're going to start. The topic is off the table. And so those kids who have been refusing, holding, whatever, when you stop talking about it, it becomes a non-issue. And once it's no longer perceived as being something you want them to do, it's like, yeah, you will or you won't. Like when you can give them that laissez-faire, tomato, do or don't attitude, then they'll start making different choices because they're no longer ego bound to oppose you. So now they're actually free to go because it's no longer the losing proposition. That makes sense? So back off, give it a good month until you maybe mention it again. And if you still get resistance, back off, don't say anything, try again in another month. And eventually you'll find that sweet spot between where they're actually interested and motivated. And like I said, don't be surprised if that happens after they're, in junior kindergarten and everyone's lining up. And people start saying, why are you wearing pull-ups? And they're like, Mom, I don't want to wear pull-ups. Yeah, well, as soon as we get this figured out, you can wear underwear too. But just keep it that's that positive, fun attitude, faith. Don't make it any bigger of an issue than it is. So we already talked about the bedwetting at the beginning of the seminar in terms of that comes later. Show them how to clean up. If you want to do those little buzzy things, if it works, that's great. But often it's just a matter of a little bit more age and keeping life calm and showing them how to clean it up with the layers and having that sleeping bag. So the important thing is you don't wake people up for a wet bed. That's what we want to enforce, because otherwise there's lots of good reasons to wet your bed. So the last thing, shall I go back to questions before I chat about this?
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to write them in the chat or the Q&A. We do have one follow-up question right now, Alyson, for the almost 5-year-old who's potty trained but wearing the pull-up at night. And so Mom is wondering, is there a cue for when we should remove the diaper at night or just cool it with the liquids and wait for it to be dry? I would wait for her. I would wait for it either to be way less wet, or for her to wake dry. And again, there's no, you can always experiment. There's nothing is irreversible. You can say, hey, why don't we give it a try with just the underwear on? If you think that her feeling wet against her skin would be enough to wake her up, then give it a go. But if you discover that it's wet and you clean the bed and everything, just say, no, you know what? Your body's still learning how to hold on to pee-pee at night. It's hard because you're sleeping, right? And you can tell her the same thing that I told you about your arms. Your body has to learn how to talk to itself while you're sleeping. And that's a pretty complicated skill, but you'll get it eventually. But otherwise it's just a lot of cleaning up. So there's no rush to the races there. Yeah. Perfect. One more question here. How to deal with biting and hitting that starts with potty training?
That speaks to me about the resistance then. They're basically saying, no way, no how, ain't gonna do it. And I would say, stop potty training. Just go right back to it's off the table. Don't mention it, don't talk about it, keep them in the diaper. Give it a good month, and then again, just start again with curiosity. Next time you see them do a little bit of a pee-pee wiggle or whatever, just say like, oh, looks like you're holding a pee. You want to try that in the toilet? No. Okay. That's it. I wish it was more complicated, but the truth is, eventually, like I said, there will be a social, they either will want to be like the older people, like that caterpillar wants to be like the butterfly, and it just might be that the social cost for them has not kicked in yet. And, but it will come. I promise you it will come. There's very few kids that have, urology appointments at medical hospitals because of this. It's usually just because our decision to do this at a different pace than they are either physically ready or psychologically ready that's the part that kills us, because it's not linear, is because we're out of tune. And if we're willing to just sort of say, you take the lead and I'll be there as support, and just have faith that that actually makes it go faster in the long run, and you certainly aren't going to be having to do it forever. We just have to stop being over ambitious and trust the child to lead, and let go of social criticism. That's on our ego. Don't worry about it. You're on the path. I do want, before people sign off, I know people have to get back to work and I want to leave this up for other people, but I'm offering people a 15% discount for those people that are with Kids and Company. And that discount code goes towards the registration fee for a full weekend workshop that I am doing. This is like my masterclass of parenting. If you enjoyed what you were hearing today, you want to know more about Adlerian psychology, and you want to have a full framework for your parenting, this is designed for people with kids from basically birth, or I think 16 months is a good time to start learning about child development and discipline. And it goes up to 10, because at 10, there's certain parts of your psychological constructs that are a little bit more baked in. And so if you want to really know everything about child development, proper discipline, non-punitive, non-reward, the difference between praise and encouragement, understanding the 4 goals of misbehavior, loading up your discipline toolbox with at least 25 different tools, and it's a small group format. So if you've got issues, we will have time to spend on your each individual family. You will leave feeling so empowered that you know what your job as a parent is, and how to raise that child that's going to be cooperative, caring, empathetic, posed to thrive and be successful. So I haven't offered this course since 2015. And so it doesn't come around very often. It's next weekend. I know that's short notice, but hopefully if you can come with your partner. If you can't, even one of you come get grandma and grandpa or whoever to babysit. I hope that discount code helps people up. But this course, because I've been doing this for 20 years, people say it's a life changer, and I have a 100% money back guarantee if you didn't think it was worth your time or money. And I've never had to honor that. And I still get messages from people say, my kid's 14 now, you changed our life. So I'm excited to offer it to you, and hope some of you can join. So thank you. I hope this has been helpful.
Thanks, Alyson, and I have put the click-through link for the Parenting Bootcamp in our chat for anyone who's interested to click through easily. We have one last question here that just came in. My daughter has been peeing on the potty for about 4 to 5 months now, but doesn't poop on the potty. She did it a few times to start, but now waits until her nighttime pull-up is on. Should we just wait it out until she is ready? She always poops after her bedtime, so the urge doesn't seem to be in the day for us to try it during the day.
Isn't it? It's funny how our bodies have patterns, and you can, adults don't talk about their poops very much, but you start talking about poop. It's like, so when you go in a business trip, do you poop in the hotel or do you hold it until you get home? Or if you're sharing or like, adults have as many crazy things as kids do. And we're very regular. And so for some people that's pooping at night, and for other people that's pooping as soon as they get up and have their morning coffee, whatever it is. So she seems to have her little circadian rhythm is right after bedtime. It would be nice to move that up. A lot of kids hold so that you actually do come and spend that extra little bit of time with them. If she gets a little bit older, she's still not going in the potty yet. If you've got older kids, what I say to parents is just put the potty right in the bedroom and just say, you know what? If you go to bed and you find out you still have to go to the bathroom, there's your potty chair, there's your wipes, look after yourself. So I want them to know that I'm not of service in that area at night, or go on your pull-up. After a rash, they usually, it's just trying to get rid of the holding in order to pull you to dawdle on bedtime, right? But if it doesn't look like she's doing that, yeah, just stay in the pull-up, clean it, no, just no comments asked, and eventually she'll start to get that rhythm to be more during the day. So it's just patience. I know it seems like I wish I could offer you more, but honestly, we're more on the right track than we know. It's just playing the long game. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alyson. We do have one question asking where this webinar will be available to access again at a later date. And that will be on our Kids in Company corporate specific website, which you can ask your HR contact at your company to make sure that you have access to that website, and you'll be able to find this webinar linked there to rewatch whenever you would like, starting tomorrow. We also will have a webinar next month on communicating effectively with children, and the details will be available on that website as soon as they're finalized as well. Thank you so much, Alyson, and thank you to everyone for attending. We hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye.